بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته, and welcome to the final session, guys, of this series that we've been doing for a couple of months now, about the stories of the prophets. We started all the way from Adam, and subhanallah, today we are going to do the story of our blessed final prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I'm excited, but at the same time a little bit sad because we're winding up uh, this beautiful session, or this beautiful experience or journey that we have been doing together. Okay, so I know there's one person who wants to participate. We have Aden here who has requested to participate. So Alhamdulillah, she's going to be joining us and participating in this. I don't know if anybody else wants to participate. You can raise your hand as well. And then we can begin, inshallah. Okay, so yeah, we have Sultan as well. So we're going to portion this into two, and then we can begin. So let's look at, I think we have 2 pages. Yeah, so I think we have 2 pages, so we can do one page of one page each. Yeah. The last bit of it, we might do it, we might not do it, but we'll do 2 pages. So, Aden, you can begin for us.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Qissatu Muhammadin alayhi salatu wassalam.
Beautiful.
The story of Hazrat Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him.
Mm-hmm.
Ba'asallahu Muhammadan khatama anbiya'ahu ba'da balughihi sinnal arba'in. Allah sent Hazrat
Mm-hmm.
Muhammad, the last of his prophets, after he reached the age of 40.
Yes.
وقد بدأ عليه الصلاة والسلام دعوته سرا, and he, may peace and blessings be upon him, had already started his invitation in secret. واستمر فيها ثلاث سنوات قبل أن يأمره الله بالجهر فيها, and he remained in it for 3 years before Allah commanded him to become public in it.
Mm-hmm.
وقد تحمل عليه الصلاة والسلام الأذى والمشقة في سبيل دعوته,
Mm-hmm.
and he, may peace and blessings be upon him, had already endured abuse and harm in the way of his calling.
Okay.
مما أدى بالصحابة إلى الهجرة إلى الحبشة, which caused his companions to migrate to Abyssinia. فرارا بدينهم, fleeing for their religion. واشتد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, and the state tightened upon the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, وخاصة بعد وفاة أقرب الناس إليه, and especially after the death of the closest of people towards him. فخرج من مكة إلى الطائف, so he exited from Makkah towards Taif. ملتمسا نصرة منهم, seeking help from them.
Mhm.
فما وجد غير الأذى والسخرية. But he did not find except for harm and ridicule. فعاد فعاد عليه الصلاة والسلام. So he returned, may peace and blessings be upon him, ليستكمل دعوته, to complete his invitation. وكان يعرض الإسلام على القبائل في موسم الحج. And he used to introduce Islam to tribes in the season of Hajj. فالتقى يوما بنفر من الأنصار الذين آمنوا بدعوته. And so he met on a day with a group from the Ansar who believed in his invitation.
Beautiful. We're gonna stop there for a while, and then we're just going to
Yes.
figure out what's happening. There's a lot that is happening in this passage. I mean, it's a summary of the entire Sirah, the most documented man in the whole of the world that we know today. And it was just all jam-packed into this few sentences. So we need to unpack all that. There were a few mistakes here and there, but mashallah, very, very beautifully done. I'm very proud of you and what you have done. By the way, those who don't know, Aden is in grade 6, guys. So yeah, that's why I just wanted her to read and just do it, and she did it in an amazing way, and I'm really proud of that. So beautiful. Okay, so let's figure out a few things. So بعث الله محمدا خاتم أنبيائه. So Allah sent Muhammad as خاتم أنبيائه would be the hal here. So the خاتم أنبيائه as the seal of his prophets, or the final messenger, if you will. بعد بلوغه سن الأربعين, after his reaching of 40 years. Okay, no problem. Dr. Sultana says we should let you Aden complete. Okay, so I'm gonna go through this section and then she'll complete, inshallah. No problem. But she did an amazing job, mashallah. بعد بلوغه here is a masdar. So بلغ يبلغ بلوغ will be the masdar, and it's acting as a فعل, and that's why سن الأربعين here is the مفعول به of بلوغ. So بلغ يبلغ, after his reaching of what? Reaching 40 years of age. Okay, so that's what's happening there. وقد بدأ عليه الصلاة والسلام دعوته, and he صلى الله عليه وسلم started his da'wah, his calling, sirran, as a secret. As we all know, we're all familiar with the story. So the Prophet ﷺ started his da'wah, his invitation, his calling people to Islam, sirran, as a secret. Again, another hal. It is describing how he started. بدأ سرا. It started as a secret. واستمر فيها 3 سنوات, and he continued in that state, or in that calling, da'wata, in this da'wah, the ha here goes back to da'wah. So واستمر فيها, and he continued in that calling 3 سنوات, 3 years. Okay. قبل, before, and so this قبل is a special mudaf, and this an يأمره is our مضاف إليه, basically في محل جر. So this مصدر مؤول is our مضاف إليه في محل جر. So قبل أن يأمره الله, before Allah commanded him بالجهر فيها, to go public in it. In it, again, the ha goes back to this ha, which goes back to the da'wah. So to go public in that invitation. Okay, so 3 years, we know it started as a secret mission, like a really cool, I don't know, action superhero kind of secret movie happening there. And then after 3 years, he was commanded to go public and to invite now everybody publicly. وقد تحمل عليه الصلاة والسلام الأذى والمشقة في سبيل دعوته. And we know that the minute he went public, that's when all the problems started. So he's saying, and certainly the Prophet ﷺ tolerated, he endured, he bore عليه الصلاة والسلام الأذى, harm, والمشقة, and a lot of problems, difficulties في سبيل دعوته, in the path of his calling or his invitation. Okay, so تحمل our فعل, and of course the فاعل is in the inside pronoun هو تحمل, referring back to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. الأذى is a مفعول به. What did he endure? What did he tolerate? الأذى والمشقة is the معطوف to that, and that's why it's nasab, because الأذى you cannot see. This is اسم منقوص, you cannot see. Sorry, this is, yeah, it is منقوص, so it's mabni, it doesn't change. Yeah, so it's al-adha, you cannot tell, but we know it is mansub because it's a maf'ul bihi. في سبيل دعوته, that's متعلق. And then you have this structure here, so we need to unpack this. مما أدى بالصحابة إلى الهجرة. مما, from which, okay, so we can say from which, what does the which refer to? So this experience that the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba had in terms of difficulty and mashaqqa is what prompted Rasulullah ﷺ to direct. Adda bi has the meaning of direct or guide somebody. So from this experience, the Prophet ﷺ guided the Sahaba or directed the Sahaba إلى الهجرة إلى الحبشة. He directed them towards what? Towards migration, not immigration, towards migration to Habasha, to Abyssinia. Okay. Is that part clear? Do we understand what Mimma is doing here? So Mimma goes back to this state. So what the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, what they endured, that is what prompted the Prophet ﷺ to direct the Sahaba to migrate. So مما أدى بالصحابة, from this he directed the Sahaba إلى الهجرة إلى الحبشة. So that's what Mimma is doing there. فرارا بدينهم, fleeing away with their religion, or running away with their religion, or for their religion is also, you can also translate it as for their religion. In other words, they're running away with their religion, protecting their religion, okay? So that they don't lose their religion. Because if they stayed in Mecca, perhaps the torture would be so much and some of them would lose their faith. So firaran bidinihim, running away with their religion.
So this will be the hal, firaran?
Yes, firaran is a hal. How were they migrating? Firaran bidinihim, as a running away with their religion, while running away with their religion, protecting their religion. That's a good clarification there. Firaran is a hal. واشتد الحال, and the condition intensified على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, upon the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. So the condition intensified, the torture increased. We know there was the what is it called? The boycott that happened, and the torture continued, especially among the weak and the slaves among the Muslims, رضي الله عنهم وأرضاه. So اشتد الحال, the condition intensified, and اشتد is lazim. So الحال here is the fa'il of اشتد. That's what is happening. That's why it is مرفوع. وخاصة, and especially, this word comes like this. خاصة, it will always be a tanween because it's either considered a hal or a maf'ul mutlaq. So it's always going to be mansub. So خاصة and especially is always going to be like that. Not to be confused with another word which is خاصة bi. When it comes with a ba, خاصة bi, that's a different meaning and it's completely mu'rab. It can be خاصة, خاصة, خاصة. And so that's a different word. And khasatun bi means specifically for. Specifically for. This one means especially. Khasatan, especially. Khasatun bi, specifically for. Okay? So that's just some revision there. So khasatan ba'da wafati aqrab an-nasi ilayhi. And especially after the death of the most beloved people to him. Now, aqrab. Okay, so obviously this بعد, it's a ظرف, a special مضاف متعلق, so it متعلق to خاصة here. So بعد special مضاف. وفاتي, it's مجرور بالإضافة because this is مضاف and this is مضاف إليه. And then وفاتي is also another مضاف. أقربي is مضاف إليه. And then أقرب مضاف. الناس مضاف إليه. And that is why أقرب here takes on a kasra, because we know اسم تفضيل, they do not take a kasra. They are ممنوع من الصرف unless in two conditions, unless it is a مضاف or unless it has al on it. And here it is in the superlative form because it's a mudaf. So the most, the closest people to him. And that's why I'm putting a kasra on aqrabi. Okay, so that's important to remember. So especially after the death of the closest people to him, عليه الصلاة والسلام. فخرج من مكة إلى الطائف. And so he خرج من, you can look at it as he left. He left Mecca going to Taif, or he left Mecca for Taif. Okay, so he left Mecca for Taif because it was so difficult, alayhi salatu wassalam, in Mecca. The situation had become so dire, so lethal, so deadly, so horrible, that he decided, alayhi salatu wassalam, secretly to go on a secret mission of seeking aid, multamisan, requesting, begging, petitioning, help, and not just any kind of help, and nasra, aid. Like, it's not just musa'ada. Musa'ada is what we normally use for help. No, he was seeking a massive aid for just not him, and for him and the Muslims at that time. Radiallahu anhum ajma'in. So seeking, again, multamisan, here another hal. He was going, so kharaja, this is a verb. How did he go? Multamisan, seeking. So another hal, multamisan, and nasrata. And multamisan here is an isim fa'il that is acting as a verb. So an-nusra, sorry, an-nusra would be the maf'ul bihi of multamisan. Seeking what? Seeking aid, seeking major assistance from them, i.e. the people of Ta'if. From them, referring to the people of Ta'if. Even though they were not mentioned before, you probably are wondering, okay, whom what? They didn't mention anybody, but it is understood that خرج من مكة إلى الطائف. The people are the ones who live in Ta'if. It's not just he was multamisan and nasra. He wasn't seeking help from the town. He was seeking help from the people who live in Ta'if. So the whom refers back to the people that live in Ta'if. In case somebody was wondering what's happening, who is whom here? And I know, especially with pronouns in Arabic, like pronouns could be very confusing. Whom, how, what is it referring to? So it's important to understand what is happening in the story in order to understand what is going on with the pronouns. فما وجد غير الأذى والسخرية. Now here let's unpack this. Again, we have الاستثناء happening. So ما, obviously ما here is ما نافية, negation. ما وجد, he did not find. Okay, so وجد is our فاعل, and of course the فاعل is the inside pronoun هو, referring to the Prophet ﷺ. So there's a match here. Sorry, no, this is not isim mawsul. Sorry, I was going on a different. Where are we? Okay, where are we? Yeah, here. ما وجد, ما نافية, he did not find. Of course, the inside pronoun هو is the فاعل. Now ما وجد غير is أداة استثناء. Now we have talked about إلا before. We have mentioned a little bit about إلا, but we haven't talked about غير, and we haven't talked about خلا, سوى, حاشا, عادة, things like that. Now, I'm just going to mention a brief summary here. When we come to the topic of al-istithna, there is the adatul istithna, the articles of exception, all right? So there's illa, which is a harf. So there's harf, and that is illa. There are isms that can be adatul istithna, can be, sorry, not adatul istithna, but the mustathna. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to confuse you here or what's going to happen. Okay, so there's isms. We have غيرة and siwa. These are isms. And then you have fi'ls. عادة, حاشا, خلا. These are fi'ls. We're not going to go into the fi'ls. We're going to talk about the ism. غيرة. غيرة and siwa, they kind of have the same way they work. It's not so different from illa, by the way. It's not so different from illa. The only difference is that illa is a harf, and therefore it doesn't take any i'rab. You cannot say illa is marfu' or mansub. You cannot do that. But ghayra is an ism. Siwa is an ism. So it has to take on a haraka. It has to be either marfu' or mansub, and so on and so forth. Now, when it comes to these two, they're going to be the mustathna. Okay? They're going to be the mustathna, the exception. So when you say ghayra, it depends. Is the sentence positive? The same criteria happen, by the way. Is the sentence positive and is the mustathna minhu mentioned? That's category number one. If the sentence is positive and the mustathna minhu is mentioned, then ghayra becomes the mustathna minhu and it takes on a fatha, becomes mansub. Okay? If the sentence is negative and the mustathna minhu is mentioned, then there are two things. It can either be the mustathna minhu, where it takes on a fatha, it becomes mansub, or it can be the badal of the mustathna minhu. Same thing with illa. Same thing with illa. And then you have the last situation where it's a negative sentence and the mustathna minhu is not mentioned. And in this case, it takes on the i'rab. You just basically remove the ma from the equation and look at it. What role is it playing? And that's what you do. Okay? So now if we're to look at this sentence, it's a negative sentence. Is the mustathna minhu mentioned? No, the mustathna minhu is not mentioned. So that means this is level category number 3. Okay? The last one. It's a negative question and it is manfus. It is incomplete. So let me just, I think I need to write this. Otherwise. So we have 3 conditions here. So number 1, we have a situation where it's a positive sentence and the mustathna minhu, let me call it complete to make it easier to write. So positive sentence that is complete. And then the second situation, you have a negative sentence, but it is also complete. Yeah, the mustathna minhu is mentioned. The exception from which you're doing an exception, that thing is mentioned. And then the third situation is where you have a negative question that is incomplete. The mustathna minhu is not mentioned. Ma wajada, what did he find? What did he not find? It's not mentioned. The what? Yeah, the what is not mentioned. If the what was mentioned, it will be complete. But the what is not mentioned. So this means the sentence we're dealing with here is the third situation. And that means we have to look at what role ghayr is playing in the sentence, and it will take the i'rab of whatever role it is playing. Now, obviously here, it is playing the role of a maf'ul bihi. What did he find? This is what did he not find? This is what he did not find. So that becomes our maf'ul bihi. Or you remove the ma from the equation and you ask yourself, wajada ghayra. What did he find? This is what he found. It is playing the role of maf'ul bihi, and that is why we are doing a fatha there. Is that clear? I know I just introduced a new concept there, but it's not so new.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, but you can, if you have any questions or if anything is not clear, you can always ask. But that's just basically to do with ghayra. Siwa, you also do the same thing. Okay, so you just look at the sentence. Positive.
Same like la and illa, sister? Considering la and illa?
La and illa. That is, so la and illa, you just remove it. Yeah, basically, because also la is a negation. So it would be a negative sentence. You ask yourself, is it complete or incomplete? If it is complete, then it can either be mustathna, so it will be mansub, or it will be a badal of the mustathna minhu. So it'll be the second situation. But most of the time you find that it's just a badal. Most of the time the mustathna minhu is mentioned, so it becomes a badal. Most of the time. But not all the time, but most of the time. But in this particular case, the mustathna minhu is not mentioned, so this ghayra becomes, it plays the role of whatever role it's playing in the sentence. So it takes on whatever role in the sentence. And in this case, it's a مفعول به, and that's why it's غير. Now, غير is a special مضاف. So obviously, whatever comes after غير or سوى is going to be a مضاف إليه. Again, other, you cannot see it because other, it refuses. It's mabni. It says, I don't want to, like, I'm not going to show my i'rab, my status. I'm going to remain stubborn and remain the way I am. So you cannot tell. That's why we are saying al-adha, غير al-adha. But السخرية has a ta marbuta. And anything with a ta marbuta, it's going to be fully flexible. So السخرية تي غير الأذى وغير السخرية. That's the implication there. All right. Any questions, guys? Are we all moving at the same pace? Are we good? Okay. So فما وجد غير الأذى والسخرية صلى الله عليه وسلم. He went to Ta'if. He was hopeful. He was looking forward to their nusr, for their aid. But فما وجد غير الأذى والسخرية. The only thing he found there is أذى والسخرية. And again, I'm translating with only because this is how you translate the sentences. ما إلا, only. Remember, that's how we do it. You can say he did not find anything but. You can do the anything but, or you can do the only. So the only thing that he found there was just pain and ridicule and mockery. Yeah, and ridicule. فعاد عليه الصلاة والسلام. So he returned. عاد again is our فعل, referring back to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, who is the فاعل. ليستكمل لي and then لكي إذا حتى. So it's حرف نصب. It makes مضارع منصوب. That's why this is ليستكمل. So that he could complete. He could complete what? So this is our فعل. And دعوته would be our مفعول به. Again, very simple جملة فعلية there. ليستكمل دعوته, so that he could complete his da'wah or his calling and his invitation. وكان يعرض الإسلام, and he used to present الإسلام. Just give me a minute. I'm going to fix something here. Okay. وكان يعرض الإسلام, and he used to present Islam على القبائل في موسم الحج, to the tribes في موسم الحج. Now somebody could ask, على القبائل, isn't this in the pattern of فوائل? Like, isn't this supposed to be ممنوع من الصرف? Yes, it is supposed to be ممنوع من الصرف because it's منتهى الجموع, because it is the extreme plural, is a pluralized plural, if you will, like the end of pluralification. Plural. Oh, that word is so hard. Anyway, yeah, you understand what I'm trying to say. But because it has al on it, remember, if it has al on it, it can take on a kasra, and that's why it's taking on a kasra in that sense. So يعرض to the فعل, and the فاعل is هو inside pronoun. الإسلام مفعول به. على القبائل متعلق number 1 في موسم الحج, number 2 متعلق number 2. So in the season of Hajj. So he used to call people, whenever people, you have to understand that Mecca was the center for Hajj. And in Hajj season, people would come from different parts of Hijaz to come and worship their gods in Mecca. So there would be a lot of traffic during the season of Hajj. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ would present Islam to them, so that when they went back to their villages and their towns and their tribes, they would go with the message of al-Islam. فالتقى يوما بنفر من الأنصار. التقى ب this to meet. Okay, so التقى يوما ب. So one day he met with نفر, a delegation or a group from Al-Ansar, the tribe of Al-Ansar, or the people of Ansar. الذين آمنوا بدعوته, who believed in his mission. So Al-Ansar, الذين موصوف صفة. That's what's happening there. Is there anything here? So يوما is ظرف here. Of course بنفر متعلق. من الأنصار, من التبعيدية here, من of بعض. It doesn't mean all of the Ansar, but just a portion of the Ansar, a part of the Ansar. So this min is تبعيدية, means from the Ansar. الذين اسم موصول, آمنوا صلة الموصول, and then of course the pronouns match here. So بدعوته متعلق to آمن. Any questions, guys? By the way, if there are any questions, please feel free. So he met a delegation, uh, some of the people of Ansar, ورجعوا إلى المدينة, and they returned. So this الذين آمنوا, these ones, the people that he made, that he met, who believed in his message, they returned إلى المدينة. رجعوا إلى المدينة oh, we haven't done this part, sorry. Okay. How does this go? Okay. Adil, let's go.
Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ورجعوا إلى المدينة. They returned to Medina لدعوة أهليهم.
أهليهم.
ثم تهيأت الظروف فيما بعد. Then the circumstances were prepared later. لعقد بيعة العقبة الأولى والثانية. بيعتي العقبة الأولى والثانية بين الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام. To conclude the first and second pledges of allegiance of Aqaba between the messenger, may peace and blessings be upon him, wal Ansar, and the Ansar. وبذلك مهد أمر الهجرة إلى المدينة, and thereby paved the matter of migration towards Medina.
Okay.
فخرج النبي مع أبي بكر تلقاء المدينة. So the Prophet left with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu straight towards Medina.
Opposite
Medina. ومر في بغار ثور, and he passed on his way by the cave of Saud. وبقي 3 أيام قبل بلوغ المدينة, and he remained in it for 3 days before reaching Medina.
Beautiful.
وبنى المسجد فور وصوله إياها. And he built the masjid immediately after his reaching there. وأقام فيها الدولة الإسلامية, and he established in it an Islamic statehood. وبقي يدعو إلى رسالة الإسلام إلى أن توفي, and he remained calling towards the message of Islam until his passing away, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وعمره 63 سنة, and his age is 63 years.
Beautiful. Again, very nicely done. We're going to fix a couple of mistakes here and there. Very, very minimal, not a lot. But mashallah, you're doing a great job. I want to encourage you. Keep on doing what you're doing. You are really outstanding. May Allah bless you. Okay. So let's go back to the... You're welcome, my dear. Jazakillah khair. So, وَرَجَعُوا إِلَى الْمَدِينَةِ. So we're talking about the Ansar. This is where we had stopped. So the Ansar, they returned to after accepting Islam, they returned to Medina. لدعوة أهليهم. Now, this is not أهليهم, this is أهليهم. In أهلي with يا, it's called يا, I think مصدرية. It means family. أهلي, not أهلي, but أهلي. Okay? So أهلي means family. Families, sorry. أهليهم, their families. لدعوة أهليهم, for the purpose of inviting. So this lam is lam at-ta'lil. Why did they go back? They went back for the purpose of inviting their families. Okay. When I say ahli, that means my family. But ahli is a family, is an idea. Okay. And this ya is called ya masdariya. It's similar to ya and nisba, but ya and nisba makes it an adjective. Ya masdariya makes it a masdar. That's kind of the difference between the two. Okay. ثم تهيأت الظروف. Okay, so let's practice this. تهيأ is a verb. تهيأ يتهيأ. I don't know if you guys were following World Cup last year when Qatar hosted the World Cup. There was a very famous nasheed that came out, really a nasheed, but Hamoud al-Khudr and Mahir Zain, there was this nasheed called تهيأ هيا هيا يلا تهيأ. So it's actually called تهيأ. It means make ready, become ready, be ready, get ready, prepare. That's what tahayya means, and it's lazim. So make yourself ready. That's what tahayya means. Make yourself ready. That's the very literal translation of it. So ثم تهيأت الظروف, then the circumstances or the conditions were made ready. Okay, the conditions were made ready. When they returned to make the conditions ready. So when the conditions were made ready afterwards. فيما بعد, together, it means afterwards or later. Okay, so the conditions were made ready afterwards, or the conditions were prepared afterwards. Well, the conditions for what? Again, لام التعليل لعقد بيعتي العقبة الأولى والثانية. For the contracts of, we know the agreement of بيعة العقبة, there were two of them, الأولى والثانية. So he's saying the conditions were made ready for the purpose of signing the agreement of the بيعة العقبة الأولى والثانية. There were two of them, okay? So بيعتي, it's not بيعتا, it's بيعتي, because this is بيعتين لعقد بيعتين. So عقدي is our mudaf, بيعتي is our mudaf إليه, and it is also our mudaf. That's why it is light. And then al-aqabati is our mudaf إليه, and then al-aqabati is موصوف, and then al-ula al-sifa of that. Okay. I'm trying to think here. I think you can also look at al-ula wa thaniya as badals, but you can also look at them as mawsuf sifa. I think mawsuf sifa makes more sense in this case. Any questions so far? Okay, good. And then we have, so the signing of the contract of al-aqaba, the first contract and the second contract, بين الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام والأنصار, between the Prophet ﷺ and the Ansar. وبذلك مهد أمر الهجرة. مهد, it's مجهول. That's why we are saying أمر الهجرة, because أمر would be the نائب الفاعل of مهد. And with that, يعني the signing of the contracts, the two contracts, مهد أمر الهجرة. مهد, to prepare. Mihad, the earth was made as a mihad, as a prepared ground, right? So muhida, it was prepared. وبذلك muhida أمر الهجرة, the matter of migration was prepared or was facilitated or was paved way for. Okay, so the matter of hijrah was paved way for. It's a weird construction because it is majhul. All right, إلى المدينة, to Medina. فخرج النبي مع أبي بكر تلقاء المدينة So the Prophet ﷺ left Mecca, that is, مع أبي بكر, with Abi Bakr, تلقاء المدينة, in the opposite direction to Medina. Subhanallah, this is the strategy of the Prophet ﷺ. You would imagine that if you're going somewhere, you take the shortest route. And the shortest route is on the highway where, you know, it's safe, it's demarcated, everybody passes there in case you run out of water or in case, you know, animals are there. Like there are also villages are along there that can help you. I mean, traveling back then, it wasn't as traveling right now. You know, you don't have airplane services. Nobody was going to give you food in the like the way they give us in airplanes or in trains or in buses and things like that. That's not how it happens. Or we don't stop by somewhere like back then it was hard. You had to follow the demarcated way because that's the way where you if anything happens to you, people can find you on the way, or you know, you can find help. There are wells along that path where you can find water and so on and so forth. Yet the strategy of the Prophet ﷺ was to go in the opposite direction. Why? Because again, he knew he was going to be the Quraysh are going to come after him. They wanted to kill him. They wanted to be done with him. So in that sense, he took the opposite direction to fool them, to make them run around and figure out where did he go. By the time they figured out where he'd gone, he was already in Medina. The strategy, the genius of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he left, فخرج, he left. النبي is the fa'il here of خرج. مع, of course, special مضاف أبي بكر. تلقاء is also a ظرف. So تلقاء المدينة, because this is a ظرف special مضاف, this is going to be مضاف إليه. ومر في طريقه بغار ثور. مر بي, again pass by. مر بي, I pass by. So ومر في طريقه, sorry, and he passed by غار ثور on his way. So on his way, he passed by غار ثور. And I think this is pretty straightforward. So you have a فعل, and then first متعلق, second متعلق. وبقي فيه, بقي, هو بقي, هما بقيا, so on and so forth. So again, referring to the Prophet ﷺ, he remained فيه, in it, ثلاثة أيام. The مفعول به here, how many days? What did he remain in there? He remained in there ثلاثة أيام, 3 days. قبل, again, special مضاف قبل. بلوغ, مضاف إليه. المدينة, مضاف إليه, of بلوغ. Okay, so قبل بلوغ المدينة, chain إضافة happening there. وبنى So he stayed in the cave of Thawr for 3 days before reaching Medina. وبنى المسجد فور وصوله إياه. And he built, again referring back to the Prophet ﷺ, and he built, and I hope you guys are saying sallallahu alaihi wasallam while I keep saying he Rasulullah, or you know, we have to do that. Okay, so وبنى المسجد, he built what? A masjid, مفعول به. فور, again, this is a special مضاف of ظرف, immediately after وصوله. So مضاف, وصوله, مضاف إليه, and then again وصول, another إضافة happening there. So immediately after. فور means immediately after. So he built a masjid immediately after reaching it. And then after his reaching of it. This is what is happening here. So you need to understand what's happening. So the who, this pronoun, refers back to the inside pronoun in bana, which refers back to the Prophet ﷺ. So his reaching, okay, and then iyaha goes back to al-Medina. After his reaching of it, of Medina. Okay, and iya is basically a sit, because you can't say wusulihiha. What is that? It doesn't sound eloquent. You don't speak like that. You don't say after fawra wusulihiha or fawra wusulihahu. It's not, it doesn't sound right, doesn't it? And that's why we brought the iya. That's why we brought the sit, iyaha. وبنى المسجد فور وصوله إياها. Going back to Al-Medina. All right. Any questions, guys? Are we good? All right.
So yeah is again maful bihi, sister?
Yes, this is again another maf'ul bihi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always going to be a maf'ul bihi, but it's an independent pronoun. So that's something important to know. This is not an attached pronoun. Iyaha is not an attached pronoun. It's an independent pronoun, but it's a maf'ul bihi. It's always going to be fi mahalli nasab. Okay. Was there another
So
question?
all of maful fihi, sister, all these verbs will form maful fihi
Which
because of
zarf?
time.
Oh, fawra, from fawra.
Fawra, fawra
Fawra
and
wusulihi, this would be our zarf. And then iyaha, this is our maf'ul bihi. بنى إياها. بنى المسجد إياها. So this إياها goes to this فعل بنى. Yeah.
Yeah. जी, exactly.
Okay. Okay. وأقام فيها الدولة الإسلامية. So أقام established. So he established, this is our فعل. فيها, again the ha, going back to Medina, all the way to Medina. Okay, so وأقام, he established in it, in Medina. What did he establish? This is our مفعول به. أو الدولة الإسلامية, the Islamic state. So he established in it the Islamic state. وبقي, again referring back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وبقي يدعو, and he remained calling. So he remained calling يدعو إلى رسالة الإسلام, calling. And again, when you see two verbs like this back to back, most likely the second verb is a hal of the first one. Right? Remember that simple concept? Two verbs back to back. The second one is a hal. So he remained calling, and that's why I'm saying calling, ing. So he remained calling to the risala, to the message of Islam, رسالة الإسلام مضاف مضاف إليه. إلى أن, we said that this structure here, this fragment, إلى أن means until. Until توفي, until توفي, it is مجهول. So وفى يوفي توفي, مجهول version, until he was he died. That's what it means. Until he passed on, until he died. sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وعمره 63, and his age was 63 years of age, and he was 63 years of age. عمره مبتدأ 63 خبر, and of course سنة is the tamyiz of 63. Okay, عليه الصلاة والسلام. So that was the story of the Prophet ﷺ. It was really like basically from what we know of the seerah and what was said here, it's not even a fraction. It's nothing. Subhanallah. We know so much about this man, alayhi salatu wasalam, and we love him for it, and we cherish him, and we hope that we get to meet him and we get to drink from the hawd from his hands, and we get to be shaded with him under the shade on the day of judgment, and we get to walk into Jannah with him as the first group to enter Jannah, in al-tu fi daws al-a'la. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. We ask to be with him. We ask to see him. We ask to be pleased with him, and we asked him to be pleased with us, and we asked to be the witnesses for him on the day of judgment, that he has actually delivered the message. And we also asked to be the witnesses for the other prophets that he has told us about on the day of judgment. We know Noah, his people, will reject him and will say, no, he never delivered any message. And we, the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will come to the defense of Nuh and say, no, we know that you delivered the message. And all these prophets that we have talked about and learnt about throughout this series, we will come to their witness, and we will witness for them against their people. May Allah make us among those who say salawat and send salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ, especially on a day like today, because today is Friday. We are encouraged to do a lot of salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ and to just love him. I mean, when you get to know him, alayhi salatu wasalam, you have no choice but to love him. The man is so lovable. He is so amazing in his conduct, in his manners, in the way he dealt with people, in the way he dealt with things, in the way he solved problems. I mean, just we looked at the way he did strategy here, just how he thought, let's go in the opposite direction and not directly to Medina. And yet they took the most difficult route to go to Medina, alayhi salatu wassalam. Just, I mean, we all dreaming about him, and may Allah facilitate that for us and make it easy. And may Allah increase us our love for him, alayhi salatu wassalam, so that we can continue to love him and cherish him and talk about him and learn about him and hope to be in his company in the hereafter. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. So there was this little portion. Maybe I could just, we have like 5 minutes or so. So I'm just going to read through it. In the website that I took the stories from, there was this concluding portion of the Prophet, of the stories of the Prophet, and it's talking about أهمية قصص الأنبياء, the importance of the narrations of the prophets or the stories of the prophets. ذكر الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز قصص بعض الأنبياء. So the Prophet, Allah Azza wa Jal, he mentions in his mighty book, the Quran, he mentions a couple of narrations about the Anbiya, the prophets, والرسل, and the messengers, عليه الصلاة والسلام, all of them be peace and blessings. ليعتبر ويتعظ بها الناس. Okay, so that people can seek counsel and seek advice from them, from those stories and from those narrations. لما فيها من الدروس والعظات, because of what is in them, in those stories, in terms of lessons and موعظة and counsel and advice. فهي قصص ثابتة وقعت في معرض دعوة الأنبياء لأقوامهم, and they are like established stories that have, so he's saying like these are true stories, they are established stories that happened في معرض دعوة الأنبياء. This phrase here, معرض, it is used to mean in the manner of, or in the form of, okay, in the form of calling towards the message of Allah. Okay, so they are established stories that happened in the form of da'wat, in the form of دعوة الأنبياء لأقوامهم, in the form of the messengers calling their people to Islam. فزخرت بالدروس التي تبين المنهج القويم, and they overflow, so these stories, they overflow with lessons that clarify, تبين المنهج القويم, that clarify what? The upright and most righteous way, manhaj, way, or like path or program or things like that. Yeah, so these lessons, they clarify the upright way. والسبيل تبين المنهج القويم والسبيل الرشيد, and the right path or the guided path في الدعوة إلى الله, in the calling towards in the call towards Allah. وبما يحقق صلاح العباد, يحقق, we can say يحقق, وبما يحقق صلاح العباد, and what, so حقق يحقق means to achieve or realize something. So in and what will make the realization, or what will bring about, I think that's a better translation, and what will bring about صلاح العباد, righteous slaves or righteous ibad. Okay, وسعادتهم, and their happiness, ونجاتهم, and their success في الدنيا والآخرة, in dunya and الآخرة. قال الله تعالى, Allah has said in the Quran, لقد كان في قصصهم عبرة لأولي الألباب. Indeed, certainly there have been in their stories عبرة, lessons, لأولي الألباب, for those who have albab, those people who are أولو الألباب. ما كان حديثا يفترى, these are not stories that are made up, ولكن تصديق الذي بين يديه, this is affirmation of, this is truth that they have, of stories that they already have. وتفصيل كل شيء وهدى ورحمة لقوم يؤمنون, and an explanation of everything, and hudan and guidance, and rahmah and mercy, لقوم يؤمنون, for a people that believe. All right, so that's just a summary of the end of that. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. And we have finished, we have concluded. So I'm going to read the dua and then we're going to end there. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم guys.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم
جزاك
السلام
الله
ورحمة
خيرا
الله
كثيرا.
وبركاته. جزاك الله خيرا.